Hi there, folks. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share a few ideas around fear. First, I'd like to explain the difference between fear and danger. Danger is very real. I had a scenario where once upon a time, many years ago, I was hiking through a game reserve and we heard this crashing through the bushes, and we didn't know it, but there was a black rhino. We were in the black rhino's territory, and the ranger said, "Get to a tree now." And all I remember, my body took over. I didn't have to think. The survival system, this ancient survival system within this body took over. I had this superhuman strength where I climbed this tree higher than I could have ever in a normal state of mind, and I actually froze. I became part of the tree. Now that's danger. That's when we are faced with a real danger right in front of us. Now fear is very different from that. Mostly fear can be a construct. It can be created through our imagination. We have this incredible gift, this ability to imagine, to create stories in our head. But we can, without awareness, start creating horror stories. In other words, something in the past could have happened, and now we are worried about it happening again in the future. Uncertainty, we do not like uncertainty. That's a threat to survival. So worrying about the future is kind of the cousin of fear, but we end up creating this fear in our bodies. Now our brain does not know, our mind does not know the difference between what is real and what we are thinking. So as we are worried about something in the future, our body's behaving as if that danger is happening right now. So we could end up spending a large portion of our lives creating fear, but robbing ourselves of a fuller life, of happiness, because we're kind of living in this horror story. Our body has got an automatic system within it, and it uses fear as a form of survival. There are many base fears. I've spoken about them before. Fear of loss of control, not having a control over a situation, fear of uncertainty. There's fear of loneliness, fear of rejection. There's fear of inadequacy, not being adequate enough. Fear of self-worth, not being worthy enough. And these are all base fears of survival. Now these fears are deep within our subconscious. So if we are not aware, they can actually take over and become our masters. Now as they become our masters, our behaviors start to compensate for those fears. Instead of addressing them, we run away from them. And in this world with materialism, we could end up, for example, using debt to make us feel better, make us feel more worthy. We could end up rushing into relationships just to feel worthy of having a relationship that are not necessarily healthy relationships. So it is important to become aware of these fears and how they can master us. Viktor Frankl talks of a story. It's called Death in Tehran, in his book Man's Search for Meaning. And in the story, there's a wealthy Persian prince, and he's walking in his garden, and his servant comes running up to him and says, "Master, please, can I borrow your fastest horse?" The prince says, "Yes, but why?" The servant says, "Because I was in the orchard and I came across death, and death threatened me. So I can make it to Tehran by this evening to get away from death." So the master says, "Sure, take the horse." And anyway, the servant gets out, and the master goes looking for Death in the orchard, and he finds him, and he says, "Hey, Death," he says, "why did you threaten my servant so?" Death says, "I wasn't trying to threaten him. I was just exclaiming my surprise to find him here when I'm supposed to meet him in Tehran this evening." Now I feel there's a great story behind that, because wherever we go, we take fear with us. And as much as we try and run away from it, sometimes we can run into it. Sometimes we can actually create it when it wasn't necessary at all. So how do we actually work with this? How do we work with fear? It was Carl Jung who said, if there's a fear of falling, the only safety is deliberately jumping. Now I feel this is one of the first steps towards fear, is to stop running. And that's part of personal mastery, is to start sort of looking and understanding, why am I behaving this way? What fear is behind it? And start to face those fears. It could start with simply having conversations that we've avoided, especially where the relationship is important. Or it could be looking at ourselves. Why am I afraid of being with myself? Why am I afraid of being lonely? And start experiencing more time with oneself, doing the inner work, instead of looking out there to deal with that fear. Now, one of the greatest tools we've been sharing online with it on our Facebook page is the Enneagram. The Enneagram is wonderful because it's, as a personality type, it helps us understand the fears that we've built and constructed our strengths and weaknesses around. So we are in a better position to now say, I see that fear. Now I can actually work with it, and it provides wonderful tools around it. One of the most amazing tools that I work with is to work with meditation, to simply stop worrying, because where is the safest place? Well, the safest place is in the present moment. Most of our fears exist in the future, and even though we bring that future into the present moment. So with meditation, what it does, whether it's a transcendental meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's loving kindness or a simple breathing exercise, what I'm doing is I'm becoming very present. I'm working in the present moment, and I am detaching myself completely from the future and from the past. In fact, I'm even detaching myself from the attachments that my fears create in the present moment, and I'm finding myself in what we call the space in between, where you are completely free. And what that small space does, just those few moments in meditation, it calms the mind, because when our mind is stressed, we make really wrong choices. And remember, a fear, the mind believes it's actually happening now. So we calm the mind down, and when you actually move forward from that meditation, you're in a much better position to face whatever you need to face, to address whatever fears you need to address. So these are just some thoughts, folks. Until we chat again, take care and stay aware.